My man. Happy Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. Today's the Dallas Card Show, and I've seen a few photos. You know, it's cool. I have no FOMO about it. I actually have more of a kind of like, this is so good that the shows are back. People are going to shows. People are interacting again. It's good for the hobby. It's good for the growth of the hobby. So I'm super excited. If you guys are listening to us from the Dallas Card Show, what's up? Saying hi to all of you. If you're stuck at home, just searching cards on eBay, that's amazing too. There's opportunities in that. So without further ado, I want to welcome you guys back to a Saturday edition of Luka's Tigers and Bronze. My, I have a few really, really exciting topics that I think are valuable to our community to discuss. Before I get into what's relevant to me, maybe Cage wants to talk a little bit about his cardboard relevant today because he said, today was a different. I love when he says this different tone and tenor about my
Different tone and tenor.
episode.
That's right. That's
My
what it was.
tone and tenor.
That's it, man. Well, it's funny too because if you watch the last two, and they were only a couple hours apart because I posted my one from yesterday late night, and the one from today I posted in the morning. So you get a little sweet and you get a little sour, right? I'm like a sauce you dip McNuggets in. So when you combine the two cardboard relevant stories over here. But yeah, I mean, last night you gave a little shout out to the folks who are making content and letting people feel like they're at the show even if they're not there. I mean, living vicariously basically through some of those guys. Got a lot of love for, a lot of those guys. And this morning woke up and, it's just weird, man. The mood I was in. You can watch the cardboard relevant, but basically it's like, there's a lot of good in the hobby and then there's a lot of, interesting stuff in the hobby. And I'm not going to say bad, but it's just interesting, right? So, I worry sometimes that people will blindly follow certain things, certain trends. And people don't realize it. Sometimes, we're in this boat too. You don't realize how many people listen to what you're saying. And we try to be very, very careful about what is said on here because, people are listening, right? Folks are listening to this right now. We're gonna talk about somebody we think is underrated. You're gonna eat some crow about John Morant, and we're gonna talk about how our pal Bro Namath is the most stand-up of stand-up guys because Ja had his game last night and moved his team on. And let's not get it twisted, guys. He moved his team into the 8th seed, right? So. Woo! But still, great game last night. Obviously, beat Steph's team and had a very nice game himself. And literally in our groups, the comments were like, "Bro Namath, where are you? Bro Namath, you hated him. Look you're totally wrong." And he comes out today and he buys a card. He's doing a giveaway. He's completely above board doing his stuff. If you didn't listen to our episode with Bro Namath this week, it's a couple episodes back. Take a listen. It's another great episode. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of good in the hobbies, a lot of bad in the hobby, and I guess I just I want to make sure that if you take nothing else from this, it's don't just buy something or jump into something without doing your own research, right? I mean, for the vast majority of you guys, this is like something you've heard me say 1,000 times, right? Don't just jump on something because you hear somebody else jumping on it, right? That's it. I mean, that's really the message of the day, right? I mean, and be very careful when you start to hear people singing the same song in unison about something that you did not hear about last week. So, I mean, I give an example, right? I've took the double coverage. I was the first one they gave that play to, F1. But they were talking about F1, talking about like Michael Schumacher and like older cars. I'm not talking about like current stuff, you name it. The first time I heard about it, obviously those guys like it. Obviously that's, something they're a fan of, and that's fine. I'm not going to crap on that. But all of a sudden today, you pull up Twitter, you pull up, our influencers, the folks who are out there from the Dallas Card Show, and it's just like, oh, F1. We're going to watch the race tomorrow in Monaco, and it's going to be so great. And, take a look at this case. I'm opening a case of Chrome F1 cards, and look, I'm cracking a whole case of these. I'm like, all right, really? I mean, and then people just go ahead.
Let's go a little deeper. Why did that pull at you a little bit? What were you seeing? What didn't you like about it specifically? Is it that you don't like F1 as a sport? Right. You don't believe in Lewis Hamilton, or
no? It has nothing to do with either of them. Actually, it's if you forget about history, it's doomed to repeat itself. You ever heard that saying? I'm sure I paraphrased it and butchered it, right?
I heard it in 6th grade, and it's one of the quotes that I've never loved. Remember those quotes on the big posters on the wall in school? Yep. I remember reading it, and I was like, "Wow!" It kind of left an impression. So I do.
How about
remember
combine that quote, the quote of like, "If you forget history, you're doomed to repeat it." combine that quote with the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? When you combine those two, you know what we have? We have card collectors. Because we have to open our eyes, folks. And the reason why F1, I have nothing against F1. It may be the greatest thing on earth. You know, maybe the coolest sport, maybe the next up-and-coming thing. But take F1 out of the equation. Whatever today's topic du jour is, whatever the flavor of the month for Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors is, and it happens to be F1 right now, just go back 3 months. And the same people were telling you to go out and buy Mbappe and to buy Haaland and buy soccer cards. Go back 3 months before that, and they were on Squirtle's tail. You know, they were on Charmander and Charizard and telling you about how Pokemon was going to be huge in 2021 because it's the 25th anniversary and all that other fun stuff. So I find it interesting how people move in and out of these things, and I'm cautious. I want our folks to be cautious about following these things because what I like to say, right, in the market, when you're buying that stock because you've heard such great things about it, you're probably too late because the market's already done its moves on that stock, right? You know, you have so you're going to buy it at a high and then boom, it's going to come out from underneath you, right? It's the same kind of thing though, right? I mean, like, you know, why are the people who last year were on Pokemon now on F1? And by the time you start grabbing your F1 cards, the prices have been steamed up so much that you're holding F1s and in July or August, they're talking about, you know, Australian rules football players and breaking that stuff, you know, so it's just it's a repetitive theme that I'm noticing. You know, you want to layer on a little bit of buy what you love and you don't have to worry about this stuff. That's fine. I get all that stuff. And I'm not talking about anyone in particular, any specific person here. This is something that goes on in our hobby a lot. People move on to the next thing. And I'm just nervous about our folks being late to the party and being stuck holding a bag.
Is lasting power, is that the right word to use? Like a lot of these fads come and go.
Yeah.
The fads within the hobby. Like you always talk about like these fads that are kind of on the periphery that they come and go. The flavor of the week, as you mentioned. How do you know if something like this has lasting power?
You don't, right? So it's funny. I learned a lot the last time I watched the crossover with Chris Hodge and Josh from Cardboard Chronicles, right? And they showed a graph, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a huge dip, But they showed like the last 3 months, and their tracking of their cards, you know, their index, let's call it, was actually up a little bit over that same time period. And if you watch Golden Auctions ends, you watch Heritage Auctions ends, there are cards that are not down. The low pop, high profile cards. You know, there are cards of Kobe that there's just so few of that every time they sell, they set new high prices. Not his Chrome, because that's a lot of that. They're not his Chrome rookie, but the more limited edition cards of his, the ones you don't see, the inserts from the 90s that real Kobe fans are trying to stack up, because if you miss it on that auction, who knows when the next time you're going to see it is. Those are still doing fine. You know what I mean? So I learned a lot about that from those guys. So, yeah, I mean, when the market is going up, that fringe, that periphery is smaller. Everything sort of kind of moves into the mainstream. Everything becomes something that a lot of people are going after. But when the market crests and starts to fall or pull back and, you know, plateaus or, you know, it's finding a new ground, a new floor, the stuff on the periphery seems a little wider. You know what I mean? The stuff that's a safer investment. Now, you know, I don't hear too many people talking about the net pros. You know, I don't hear too many people talking about tennis cards and stuff like that. I mean, it used to be like, all right, well, basketball went up. What are we going to make our money on now? Well, now basketball's going down. Who's talking about tennis? No, we're going to find the next big thing, and it's F1 cards.
Do you see this? So in stocks, there's this concept called low float. It's a stock that doesn't have a lot of shares in the market. Mm-hmm. And when it gets any volume increase, which means more buyers,
yep,
the price kind of goes a little bit berserk, right? So, like, let's use Net Pro, right? Because no one collected tennis cards just even a year and a half ago. When it gained a little bit of popularity, the card, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20x. But then when that happens, people start paying attention and they're like, wait a second, I have Net Pros downstairs. I have sealed wax.
Exactly.
And
so
then you
the
see
float
this
is a great
run.
example. Yep. Yeah, float's a great example for it. I love what you say because float is talking about available supply. rather than actual supply. You got to look at how much stock there is in a company, let alone what the float is. And it's a great, I don't even know if you realize how good the analysis that you're making, right? Because NetPro is a perfect example of a low float stock. But all of a sudden, as the price goes up, the float does too, right? The available shares that are out there are many more because
you know what companies do in that scenario? I've seen this. I've been trading for 4 months, and I appreciate that you saying that.
Reverse
And the
split?
reason that the company does a direct offering.
Yeah, there you
The
go.
company, and they're like, here's more shares at this really astronomically high price. The shares are being sold by the insiders. So because the company is, so there's low float, there's not a lot of shares. A new piece of technology, a new vaccine, something exciting that garners attention. Seeking Alpha prints the article. There's volume increase. The price goes 5-6x in a week, maybe even just 100% in a week. And the company says,
Oh,
we're
wow.
going
We found
to
a
do a
million
direct
shares.
offering.
Yep,
Yeah, here's a direct
shares,
offering.
which, by the way, is exactly what happens here. It's exactly what happens here. People become insiders on these things. People become insiders on F1. They've stocked up on their F1 stuff before anyone's talking about it. Then it gets talked about. That's your Seeking Alpha article. And people start to buy them, and then boom, the supply comes out of nowhere. Same thing with NetPro, man. Look at all the tennis that's out there. Same thing, by the way, same thing with Marvel cards. Same thing with, I mean, it's not just that stuff. I mean, we talked about Marvel too, and people started opening boxes and grading them, and the supply is like crazy. And forget about just the Pop 10s. Look at like the prices of PSA 9s. You know, that stuff is, it's not even worth grading them anymore because so many people sent them in and got their 9s coming back now. Look at them. Look at the amount of them on eBay. So, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Please.
Wait for this. I think if there's like a piece of advice is wait for it to cycle through one time to see where the ceiling and where the 52-week high, where the 52-week low is. Let it cycle through and then build a strategy upon that. Like, let's say you want to invest in Marvel. When Marvel started booming in February, I mean, Stan Lee's were $4,000 for a PSA 10. Now the lowest one sold for $375. Okay, you have a floor, you have a ceiling. You get to see how the pop report on PSA has played out, and now make your entry point. Be patient. Sit on your hands for a little bit. Is that right?
100%. And listen, there's a whole bunch of other factors involved in it too. I'd love it to have, we got some brains behind our operation, and maybe Conrad could do one of his fancy charts on this. But if you think that crypto pricing has no impact on the card market, then you got nothing coming to you too, right? Because this is they're now all intertwined, right? You see Ethereum, now hovering closer to 2,000 than it was at 4,000 during the heights of the VFriends drop. It lost 40% of its value. That's the spending power that a lot of people who are looking for alternate investments to spend their money on. People, there's a lot of overlap in that. So, I've raised that for a specific reason, and that is, I see auctions ending, right? And the PWCC auction ended, and I saw Shay Wei vlogs. He put a little story out there, and he's like, "Look, what happened last night? The PWC stuff ended, and a lot of people are here at the Dallas show who have those cards that ended, and they're not willing to use last night's auctions prices as comps. They're using old comps." And people have messaged me today saying, hey, this Dallas show is interesting. A lot of people here, but people are using comps from 2 months ago. I'm not getting a lot of deals done. People are not willing to. People who are sitting here are not willing to use most recent comps, and that's an interesting thing, right? Because everybody's looking for a reason why, right? Everybody's holding these cards and they're like, my card's worth this, but people want more recent comps. And the thing that I'm hearing the most is, oh, that's not a good-looking version. Like the Charizard is a perfect example. If you see anybody who posts that PSA 10 Charizard that was $240,000 with buyer's premium, everyone's, oh, that's a great-looking 6. That's a great-looking 7. That's why it sold so low. I mean, that's the best-looking 7 I've ever seen. Forget about the case. You don't have to make there's enough other reasons out there. We all get it. People have less spending power now. They've lost money. The market's down. Crypto's down. Bitcoin's down. Ethereum's down. Chainlink's down. I mean, it's all down. So, I mean, it really, you can't miss the forest for the trees, right? There's a lot of reasons that go into this stuff, and it's part of the reason why we're setting new lows on these things. But that will eventually hit their new plateau, new price discovery, as Andrew likes to talk about. And, we don't have to all make excuses for things. This is just the way markets work. Things can't go straight up. Things can't go to the moon. That's they can make their way part of the way there, but they're gonna have to take a little bit of a break. Things have to take a breather.
It's interesting, right? If you just look back at the last 12 months, everything's gone to the moon. Plus, the government has deposited like thousands of dollars into your account. It's a really fascinating time to live in, and I bet if our Luka Nation community, especially the people that followed us from day one, I know now from just interacting, we spend a lot of times in the DMs. We've done quite a few Zoom calls individually and with the group. I know that they've learned a lot from us. I think people that come in, listen 1, 2, 3 episodes, they might think we're very contrarian in nature. But truthfully, I think, and I've known you for a year, we talk every single day. We hop on and do an episode every day. I believe our only vested interest is actually sharing our experiences and insights to help others so they might not make the same mistakes that, we did. Like my mistake with Ja Morant, buying his Prism PSA 10 at $500, $600. I learned from that. I'm trying to catch a falling knife, right? It hasn't found a bottom. And I come on here and I want to share these things with other people so that, they might not have to go through and lose $2,000, $3,000. I think it's.
You want to tell them the lesson on the other side of that coin? Because I'll tell you, I have it also. It's an irrational hatred. Normally, it comes out in fantasy. There's that guy that you won't put on your fantasy team. You won't draft him, even though he's available when it comes to your time, even though he's clearly the best player on the draft board, and you have an irrational hatred of him. And you're going to tell me it's not. You've watched the games and the whole 9 yards. But because I think, and it's a great discussion to have, I think you have an irrational hatred of Ja Morant because you bought him high and his cards came down and you had such a high expectation for him that he did not meet, that now seeped its way into your brain. And even at his lows, I probably said buy Ja Morant 11 times this year as his cards have been going down because, I see potential in him. We talked yesterday about how I thought it was his team and I thought it was the best player on the team right before the game. You gave a Jaren Jackson argument. And I think what happens is, in addition to make a mistake buying high, I think that we're all human, right? We are all, and the human nature is that guy burned me. I'm not buying back into him, and I'm not going to give him another chance to burn me again. And you sometimes miss out on a bargain because of that. What do you think? You think I'm nuts? You just watched this game and he got lucky last night.
No, I think that's the coolest stuff ever. It's this. If there's one thing I want to figure out in this world more than anything, it's myself. So it's called cognitive bias. Is actually the definition of it. So they're without a doubt. And I'm a question asker, I'm a skeptic, I'm curious. And two people walk into the room, right?
Is it a rabbi and a priest?
Rabbi.
Nice.
Some guy notices the beautiful artwork on the painting, on the wall, right? He's an art collector himself, so he notices the art, and he loves aesthetic, he loves design. Another guy walks in the room and he sees the dirt on the floor. Right? He sees that things are unorganized, or we all
sees the
look
mess around. That's not a rabbi. That's my mom. She's the mess when she walks in the room.
But the point is, we all view through our lens, and it's good practice to move our lens. With Ja, I got to be honest. I think his game is very broken. I really do believe. I'm not going to give him credit for going one game and what was he 6 for 8 from 3-point land?
Yeah, he had a good game. They still almost lost it. I mean, they had a nice lead.
That's right, because you can't just say good game.
Yeah.
He made his 3-pointers.
Yes, he did.
But the amazing thing about basketball, and I think basketball is the closest thing to baseball, where you have it's a regression to the mean.
Mm-hmm.
If he shot 27% from 3-point land in a season, and then he had 8 shots and 6 went in, am I going to judge his performance by one game or a season? I just think his game's a little bit broken. I think a point guard that a team will give 6 feet of separation is a little bit show me what you got, and he made his shots.
I don't know. I thought he'd be more in line with the kind of player you like, and the Grizzlies more kind of team you like.
I like Ja. I love Ja. I love watching Ja at Murray State. I love him posterizing people. I have nothing against Ja. And nothing against LeBron, frankly. I just call it how I see it. And he has
now we all know you're lying. No, we don't know your line. But no, so it's funny. They said it in the game last night. I think he's 37th in scoring this year. Like, the Grizzlies were one of the only teams out there, if not the only team, that didn't have a 20-point scorer. He's their leading scorer. He averaged like 19 points a game. So it's interesting, but that cuts both ways. One, maybe he's not a superstar, but two, maybe he's playing team ball and getting everybody else involved. And, kind of like the trick question you asked before the game of who's their best player. Maybe it's a little tougher to answer that because they are playing what you liked about the Heat last year, a little more team ball. No, you just want to say his game is broken.
Team ball is good, but who's going to get you the bucket at the end of the game? So that's fine, but you're going to have to go to Dylan Brooks. Because Dylan Brooks he has moves. If you cover him from three, he's going to get to the rim. He's going to finish.
I think Ja got some buckets at the end of the game last night. I think Ja was doing pretty good. I mean, look, it's just one game, obviously. And look, that's the funny part too, because trust me, I hear what you're saying, and people are going nuts and buying Ja cards, and they could get swept out of the first round of the playoffs right now, and then everybody's like, "Well, that's great." We all went nuts. We all went heavy on Ja. He's gone now. So.
Maybe this is better reserved for scouts, but this is the stuff I look at. Dude, call me crazy. This is what I love to see. I like to look at the details of, if the defense does this is how I adapt to it. And you look at Chris Paul. Chris Paul gets everyone involved, but when you need a bucket, what's Chris Paul's shot?
He'll drive into the lane.
And then hit this elbow jumper.
And he hits elbow jumper, or he'll draw a foul. But yeah, you put the ball in his hands, and he's gonna make something happen.
Master of that elbow jumper. He's literally a master of that elbow jumper, right? Every guy needs to have that. Like, if you do X, I'll do Y. I don't know what Ja's move is. His little floater in the lane, it fell last night. It did, and that's how he made the last two shots at the end of the game. I have nothing against these guys. That sounds like
in the background. It's Lego boxes being open. It's music to your ears. Actually, is what that is.
I love Legos.
Hey, show me what you're up to. Bring it over. No, it's not just Lego, because you are a fan now. You've become a fan of Marvel as a long-term play. And look at that.
Like Marvel.
He's about halfway through Carnage. The new movie that's coming out here, a little Venom Carnage. So he's building ahead here. So there you go. Keep building.
I'll tell you, Ian is an impressive kid. Maybe we'll have him on as a guest episode.
That's it. There you go. Yeah.
Can I want to talk to you about something? It goes right in line with the Grizzlies. Watch out for the Warriors next year. And why do I say that? Look at the teams this year that got the 4, 5, and 2 seed. Okay, who got the 4 and 5 seed in the East?
It's the Hawks and the Knicks. 4 or 5 in the East.
And who got the number 2 seed in the West?
It was the Suns, right?
All 3 teams missed the bubble last year, and they get this extra period of rest that other teams don't have. And sometimes we forget. We discredit that the entire NBA is the best 350 players in the league.
And the lottery pick, by the way. Rest and the lottery pick.
And we discredit how much every team is actually fighting for inches. We think that the separation between the best and the worst is big, but it's really not. It's these inches. And with Clay coming back, Wiggins is still a flop, but he's going to be a good number 3 or 4 player. I mean, he's so bad sometimes it's shocking.
It's amazing that's how the game ended last night. Wiggins, that is what it is.
It is what it is. But the point,
he had a good year, but he's not supposed to be carrying a team. And when they're triple covering Steph, it's got to be Wiggins. That's not him. That's why I know what you're saying. When Clay is back and that team is in full strength, Wiggins would be their 4th option. So
exactly, not number 2, and that's what I'm excited for. I just think take a look at that kind of stuff, because it's no surprise that the Hawks and the Knicks, because the difference in the 4 and 5 seed is just a few games here or there. And a few games here or there, fresh legs, a little bit more focus, a little bit more attention. And you see the Knicks, you see the Hawks, you see the Suns, you see teams that were out of it last year. Look at the Lakers. Lakers got injured this year. How much of that is because they played so many more games and so many more minutes? The Heat got better this year on paper, and they finished a 6 seed. So that kind of stuff matters. Look into that. Think in the future. Pick up those trends. So that was actually one of the topics. I'm glad we covered that. Exquisite. I want to talk about the Exquisite set. Everywhere I look, I feel hands down that's the most popular set available. Do you agree with that? Exquisite autos from 2000 to 2010?
Yeah.
What about that set?
Cool. They're a cool looking auto. I mean, listen, I almost just did a little slip there. I said it's cool looking auto, and I said the word Ardo. And that's basically the answer on it, right? Because they are what people talk about. We like to say, oh, this is a modern piece of art, right? This is an art piece. They have clean lines. I mean, not the same every year, but the years they made, they have clean lines. They're limited. They're numbered. They have different versions of them. They throw a little, RPA, that like the initial rookie patch autos, and they happen to fall, even though they didn't make them for that long. They happen to fall in years where you have some of the greats rookie cards. I mean, you got LeBron, right? You got Steph. Some of these cards are really, really nice of really major players, right? So you got a lot of things going for them. So and they're limited, right? They're real limited stuff, and I guess they've become that art piece, that modern art piece that translates over for cards.
This is my play today, okay? So D Rose,
exquisite, an exquisite LeBron rookie auto.
Buy it. D Rose had an awesome Instagram post. It was you guys know, played a ton. It was actually my number one sport. I don't know if you consider sport a chess, but I love when people talk about chess. And he had a really cool Instagram post. I'm not going to read it all here, but I love the vibe of it. And go to his last post, read it. It's interesting. But he talks about how he's evolved his game over time. And you were talking about this a few weeks ago. It's like D Rose, the youngest MVP. Will he make the Hall of Fame?
Right now, he's the only one that he could have been the answer to a trivia question of like what NBA MVP didn't make the Hall of Fame, because for a while, especially with the injuries and stuff, before he's kind of resurrected his career now with Detroit. He played a real good 6-man role and come back to New York and the Bulls and the whole 9 yards, right? So he's building up now a stat compiler resume.
I personally think he's going to end his career with a championship. I think he's just that kind of guy. He's going to find a place where because he's humble, man. He's evolved his game so much. He's adapted his game so much. He started to come off the bench. He saw he didn't have the athleticism after the injury, so he's worked on his moves a lot. His game's changed. Changed. And everywhere Derrick Rose goes, he's beloved.
Yep.
Love him. The city falls in love with him. And I think he's a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. I really do. And I think he's got still some potential. And I look at his cards, man, and he's got some really cool cards. So I gave you guys a few options here, but we could talk about them. So, for example, Derrick Rose 2008 exquisite logo jersey patch auto out of 10. Listed right now for $4,000 or best offer. Okay? Cool card, right?
Yep.
Let's go a different route. We got an exquisite patches bullseye logo, $9,995 or best offer. This one's out of 50, but it's a sick patch with the bull in it. We have the Topps Chrome, his Topps Chrome PSA 10. Okay, $800 or best offer. Or I'll tell you the one that I think you're gonna like. 2012 Prism Silver of Derrick Rose. You know how low pop that's going to be. I don't think it even matters if it's a 9 or a 10. This one's a really clean looking 9, freshly graded, but this one's $1,500 or best offer. So I'm sitting here thinking, we got an interesting market on our hands. We got a down market. I think we're sleeping on someone like Derrick Rose, who's still playing, who's still performing really well, who's got likability through the roof, who's the youngest MVP in history, who's, in my opinion, Hall of Famer, and I think he's going to find a way to get himself a championship. As a 6-man. And you're seeing his cards, whether that's the Topps Chrome rookie card for, I think, $600. You could probably get that. It's $800 or best offer. So say $700 to $600. Significantly low pop. You could go an exquisite patch, or you could go with that Prism Silver 2012. You've got some options to play. And I think he's a really interesting move heading into these playoffs. I want to see what he does. I want to see what this Knicks team does. I personally have the Knicks team beating the Hawks just because I'll go this route with the Knicks. All season they were counted out, and all season they proved everyone wrong. Why would I stop thinking that now, right? Why would the Hawks with Trae Young, they're not running into a buzzsaw. They're not running into the Nets yet. So I think that he's going to have an amazing round 1 performance. I think this Knicks team is not to be messed with, and I think Derrick Rose is a pretty iconic guy. I really like him. Every city likes him. He's got a lot of fans. So that's my play of the day.
I like him. And you're ahead of the curve on it, I think, because, I think Derrick Rose, I think of somebody who was not like the top guy in that class, and doesn't get his respect until later down the road, right? So you're talking about, obviously, everybody loved LeBron, and Melo was huge when he first came out, but guys like Bosh in that draft class, right? Guys in 1996 like Iverson, obviously everybody loved Iverson, but Iverson, Garnett, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki, these guys that are not like the icons, but when people are buying Kobe and Kobe's cards go like this, and you're like, whoa, Tim Duncan, he was really great too. Dirk, he was really great too. Like people start to look, well, if this is here, then this guy, he's pretty good too. Let me grab some of his cards. I think Derrick Rose falls into kind of that category too. A huge fan base too.
Huge fan base.
Even though he switched places, I don't know whose video it is, but I've seen it a million times where it's Derrick Rose is doing like a signing, and a kid comes up to have him sign something, and he's like, I just want to show you something, and like there's a woman who's like, no, it looks like he's going in his waist like he's going for a gun, but he's just picking up. He's got every one of Derrick Rose's jerseys, and he goes like this, and he's wearing like each jersey that he had a different team jersey for all Derrick Rose's stops. It's a pretty cool jersey because obviously that's somebody, and that's a pretty cool video because it's somebody who's obviously a fan and has stayed with him.
I don't know anyone who doesn't like Derrick Rose either, so he doesn't have a lot of people against him.
But I have a question.
Sure.
Does he make the players on his team better?
I think so. I think people already.
That's just the question I'm going to ask you about everything now.
Well, IQ, I mean, quickly came out, and he's lost time to Derrick Rose, and he's had a direct quote saying how much he loves Derrick Rose, how much he loves his presence, and how much he's learned with Derrick Rose being there. This is a rookie who lost time to Derrick Rose who comes out and says that. So I don't know. You tell me.
I think it speaks for itself, I guess. I love the play because I like Derrick.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Do you want to go one more topic? You want to go topic or your play and then your topic?
Go another topic. My play is an easy one because it's just Actually, you know what? Let's end with your topic. I'll do my play within 2 minutes. I know Cage doesn't really do the whole brevity thing. Duderino or just Dude if you're into the whole brevity thing. That's from So anyway, my play is because I was watching Yankees today with Ian. We watch the Yankees all the time, and we've talked about this. The top guys are doing great, and Vlad Guerrero is near the leaderboard in home runs. He's one off Acuna's pace, and Tatis has played 2/3 of the game, and he's almost up there too. He hit a home run yesterday, and Acuna had a huge bomb yesterday, and all these guys. It's great for baseball. It's great for the sport and for cards that those top guys are doing great. On the other end of the spectrum is a guy I mentioned, Gleyber Torres, who has stunk it up this year. If you go back 2 weeks ago, he's batting under 200. But I said before, and I'm going to say it again as my play today, you guys can buy whatever one you want, but I would just buy his Topps Update. You want to buy his Chrome, the HMT one, that's fine too, because they're so cheap because he started the season off so bad that people have really given up on him. And it's tough to give up on a guy who is just one level below those guys I just mentioned. And even though he's batting 200 a couple weeks ago, he's on a tear, and no one's talking about it. He's on an absolute tear. He brought his average up. He had a walk-off yesterday. I think he was, when I checked today, he was like either 2 for 4, 4 RBIs, had another huge hit today. They're probably going to win because Garrett Cole's pitching. He hasn't given up a run. And he's brought his average up, as the last time I checked during this episode, to 263, which doesn't sound like a lot. But when you are batting under 200 for the first month of the season, that means you are on a torrid pace. But because everybody else is just, the talk of the town, hitting all these home runs, the hot streak that he's on hasn't been noticed yet. But give it a day. Give it 2 days. Give it 3, and the prices are going to start to creep back up. And that's the stuff that I look for you guys. And I will be honest, for all of our crew here, I only own one Gleyber Torres card. I coming into the season, I didn't do the Bro Namath and full get rid of everything, but I got rid of as many things as I can. I only own the one PSA 10 Gleyber Torres, rookie card. I own one Soto. I own a couple of Acuñas. I own a couple of Tatis. One Bellinger. I don't hold too much of this stuff because you never know what's going to happen. But right now is the time to be buying back into Gleyber because his cards they've been beat down because he just had a horrible start. And he's so young. He's on the Yankees, and he's going to be with them for a long time. And they're going to do a lot of winning. He's going to put up a lot of numbers. He already has. And it's like you talked about reverting to the mean. He's starting to do that now after a pretty abysmal start. And that's what you look for. Look for a bargain. Look for, as you like to say, an asset, a quality asset, that has been beaten down in price, you get to buy it at a discount, right? That's what Gleyber Torres is right now. So there's my 2 minute. We've talked about him a couple of times, just like I talked about Ja Morant a couple of times, and I hope some of you listened, because obviously if you bought Ja on the downswing, just the last 24 hours, his cards have gotten on fire. The same is going to happen with Gleyber Torres.
Have Ja's cards gone on fire?
Oh, forget about it. Yeah, 100%. If you look on eBay last night, things just disappeared. And
this is the issue. This is what making fetch happen looks like in front of your eyes.
Yep.
Guys, do what you want, man. I don't care. It's your money. But I think it's insane. Like, there should be a word for this. Underperform, game after game after game after game. Clearly, the guy is second tier to NBA stars, but people want him to be successful, so they find one moment, one game, they point to it and say, look, Ja had himself a game. I just went on Instagram, I saw 5 posts about Ja.
Yep.
Guys, fine. I mean, it's your money, but I mean, play it how you want.
But you'd be silly to ignore that that's the way things are, right? So saying that's the way things should be is one thing. Saying that's the way are is another, and being able to capitalize on it is another thing. That's what I'm talking about with Gleyber Torres, because you're right. You can say he's been miserable. He's been, a step below those guys for the first month. I think he's starting to come out of it. And the way it works is once people realize that, those cards will go up in value. And it'd be silly to not take advantage, knowing that that's the way it works. I'm not saying it's the way it should work, right? I don't think Ja Morant's card should have shot up towards the moon just because of one performance last night, especially when that just makes him the 8th seed. And he's now got a tough road ahead of him on a team that's clearly, I think, the weakest one in the West currently in the playoffs right now. I don't think they're going to make much noise in the playoffs, but, anything can happen. But, you're buying him high now on what hope that he lasts past the first round. More likely you're going to have an early exit from the playoffs, and you just bought at a slight, bump up. But that is what happens, Andrew. So it's silly to, try.
Here's how I'll explain it to you guys.
Yep.
The best pitchers of baseball, they either have one amazing pitch, or they have 4 excellent pitches, 3 excellent pitches. Is that a true statement or false?
Yeah, I mean, you need a backup pitch to be working, because you have the best fastball in the world. If you're not throwing something else out there, people will just sit on your fastball and hit it. So yeah, it's a reasonable statement to make, 100%.
Or you throw that fastball and it's 101 and you say hit it, right?
If you're a closer, maybe you can get by for an inning or two. Yeah, but yeah. Huh.
So Clay has one pitch, right? But he says, stop me. I'm going to move off the ball and I'm going to hit my 3.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have guys like Jason Tatum. He's got move left. He can move right. He can post up. He can shoot a fadeaway. He can cross you. You got to have one of the two. We're talking about the best of the best. You got Zion. Zion's got one pitch. Get it down low, layup. And he finishes those layups time after time after time after time. What is Ja's pitch? What's he going to go to the well? His floater, hit or miss. 3-pointer, hit or miss. Mid-range, hit or miss. His one pitch is dunking on people.
Yep. Well, he doesn't miss those dunks, though. All right, so what's the one last topic?
And I say that with love.
Dude, you come after LeBron and he goes out there and wins. You come after Ja. The way you do this, the way things work now, the way karma is, Ja's going to run through the West and win a title. And people are going to be clipping up the videos of you saying, what's going to work? What's going to work? Nothing works. Because that's just the way it rolls this year, I guess.
How does he get through the West with what pitches is my question. I love Ja. I just don't want our Luka Nation to lose money. I like watching him play. I like that young team. Kawhi. 2012 Prism isn't his rookie year.
That's right. Sort of.
How do you invest in Kawhi?
So the 2011 stuff that's out there is mostly like college jersey stuff, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, that's kind of tamped down,
But I used Kawhi as an example, but I think this happens some other times with other players. I can't think of them off the top of my head. But like when a true rookie year, 2011 for Kawhi, isn't really the sought after set. What do you do? How do you learn from that? Do you just go to the second year? Do you go to the iconic set? Do you buy autos? I know
it depends,
2012.
right? I mean, Doesn't Clay also have the same thing going on? Clay's got
100%.
some stuff in 2011 too. I mean, just that particular year, it's like everything else, right? I mean, 1986 Fleer, same scenario, right? You can't have Patrick Ewing and Charles Barkley and Clyde Drexler and Jordan rookies all in the same year when that's three different draft classes. Drexler was picked one year, then Jordan was picked the year after that, Ewing was picked the year after that, and they all have star cards. I mean, there are other ancillary cards out there for those guys. I mean, comparing Star and Upper Deck is a little, disingenuous, to be honest. I like to I like to be, fair to our audience, but that 2012 card, that's a licensed card. It's it's pro jersey. It's sort of like that 86 Flair. There's a reason why people compare those sets.
So when there's not a good rookie, you go for first licensed set. Is that a first licensed set in a pro jersey? Or it's very much figured out one-off?
I think it's probably figured out one. I think in 2012, people were not clamoring to get the Prism card so much more than the Upper Deck ones that they had for the 2011. I'm sure that now that Prism has cemented its legacy in the hobby as like the go-to investment card, that it's probably won the day. When you're doing it, hindsight's 2020, right? But back then, I don't know whether or not that was the case. I don't know whether or not people, were so clear on go ahead and grab that card. I'm trying to think of like a, another comparison for you where that makes sense. But I've seen those 2011, Kawhis, and we've given them as plays, because they're pretty inexpensive. The Clay ones too, so they're pretty reasonable by comparison. Is that your topic?
That's it. I just wanted, because my buddy bought a Kawhi PSA 9. I think it was his first card he's ever bought. So now he's watching all the Clippers games. But I started looking at it, I was like, wait, but 2011 is his rookie year. And then I went to rookie year and I was like, but this is him in a Fresno State jersey, a San Diego State jersey. And so it just got me thinking. I was like, maybe other people have seen some more of this. And I just talk about topics that I see that might be interesting to others. And I just want to bring it up.
You know what I kind of compare it to, right? So there's a first Bowman auto of baseball players, and then there's a first Topps card. There are Bowman cards in between that. Like if you're let's talk about like somebody who's if you're a Lou Bob fan, right? So Ian and I opened up a mega box the other day, and it was off center, but we got a Lou Bob Bowman card from, I think it was, what was it, 2018, buddy? It was 2018, I think.
No, it's the Aquino rookie, so it's probably like 19.
You think it was 19? You might have been 19? Maybe it was 19. So we got this gold Mojo, like out of 50, mega box Lewis Robert card, right? It's a licensed card, all right, and it's Bowman, but it's not his prospect first auto Bowman card, which people like for those first autos, right? It's a year or two after that. It's also not his first Topps card. It's not his first rookie where he's actually played, and that there's a call up there. It's in between. So you could say that card it predates that Topps rookie card, but by comparison, price wise, it's pennies on the dollar. Even though it's a card that predates it, I would say him playing, him being in that White Sox uniform, actually playing a game for the White Sox instead of their affiliate on the card, their minor league team or whatever it may be. That's the closest in my brain comparison I could come up with for it. The Upper Deck cards for Kawhi and the other 2011s, the Clays and that stuff, they're cool cards, but they don't really, they don't carry what the Prism does.
I love it. That's another episode. Please don't misunderstand my observation of Ja to hate of Ja. Those are two separate things. I like Ja a lot. Loved him at Murray State.
Listen, it's okay. You're allowed to hate players, and people are just going to give you.
Why are you doing that? No, I want to because people have money in this.
Yes, they do.
So I don't want people to feel like I'm trying to cost them money or I'm costing them money. I love the game. I like to watch and observe basketball. Sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right.
If you're listening to this episode and it's the night of release, because we release it at 7:00, so you're about almost an hour in. It'll be 8:00 if you're one of the couple hundred people who listen to it in the first hour Eastern time. which we thank each and every one of you guys. If you're one of them, big thank you. Thank you for keeping the notifications on. Thank you for jumping on it. Right when we drop those episodes. It's amazing that you do that. If you listen to this in the first couple hours, it means Golden Auctions is about to end, and yours truly's Top Shot moments are in there. So we haven't really talked about these too much, but it'll be fun to watch. See where those end and that kind of stuff. They're definitely right now a little lower than I thought they were going to be, and I'm not expecting such great shakes from them. But it'll be fun to watch. Maybe I'll go live tonight, or maybe I'll definitely be on watching and texting and answering DMs about them. We'll see what happens. I got a complete first round set on there, Series 1 set. So we'll see what that goes for. So should be some fun stuff.
It's gonna go great, man. 93-93 Heat Bucks as we're recording this.
Yeah, man. It would be. I don't know how that's gonna go. But it sets it up for a good series. A lot of these series are gonna be good. This first round series, a lot of cool matchups.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
go
Luka
catch
Nation.
it.